All right, the game is the game. 30 teams, 30 minutes. I'm solo on this one, so I'm going to be doing this one for 15 minutes. But like I said, now that the New Year's is here, Happy New Year's to everyone. I'm going to be giving you content weekly on each team. And then I'm going to be doing a daily hit, just a recap of what's going on in the NBA Daily. So definitely hit subscribe. Thank you for the people that have subscribed. Thank you for the people that leave a comment. I will respond to all comments. I really enjoy doing this, and I'm going to be pumping out content. So I definitely appreciate the love. So just go ahead and put 15 minutes on the clock. Today, I'm going to start with the Utah Jazz. Utah Jazz, just to recap what I talked about in the season preview, was a team that I thought was very interesting. The main thing that I thought was interesting was if if Donovan Mitchell has taken that leap into that D Wade stratosphere. I saw a lot of comparisons between the two of them early in his career, and I thought that that was overblown. But then, he had that great playoff performances when him and Murray were kind of trading back to back, 40-point games. And I thought that it became more apt, and I was interested to see if he was going to carry that on into the regular season. And if you're a Jazz fan, he's kind of struggled with his shot, shooting under 40% from the field and the low 30s from three. And I was concerned with Bogdanovic coming back. How would that affect him? How would that affect Conley, who finally started to play well in the bubble? And I didn't think it was a coincidence that he started to play well once Bogdanovic got out. If you've seen some of my earlier videos, I'm not a big fan of big threes. I do think generally, if you look at historically, one guy generally gets marginalized. If you look at Boston, it was Ray Allen. Miami, it was Chris Bosh. Even the Warriors that had so much success, you saw a situation where Clay and Steph, they would have playoff series and people would say what happened to them. And if you remember when Kevin Durant got hurt versus Houston, those two, it's like you put water in a chia pet. They just started to sprout out and started doing what they used to do. Then you have a situation, if you remember, Cleveland with Kevin Love. So just long story short, I'm not a fan of big threes. And I think you kind of see that because not only is Mitchell struggling, Bogdanovic is struggling as well. So you kind of seen that. And then I think another cause of concern for the team, I would say, is their defensive identity. I don't think that I thought part of being comparison to D Wade was an all league type defender. And Mike Conley was an all league type defender in Memphis, but he's getting up there in years. I believe he's 32 and he's a smaller guard. And then you have Donovan Mitchell, who's a solid defender, but there's been a lot of pressure on Rudy. He that's why he got that massive contract. And I don't know if I recorded the one before he got that contract, but he's got that massive contract extension. And he's pretty much the only, true elite defender on the team. So I think defensively, they haven't really came out with the effort that I would like to see. And I think that that's on Donovan Mitchell as well. He hasn't really shot the ball as well. The touches are not really down for him. He's getting about 20 shots a game, which is a lot in this league. But I do think, in the manner in which you get your shots and the possessions and how many possessions you go without feeling the ball, if you're used to having the ball in your hands, matters. And that series, once again, to bring up that Denver series, and it's ironic because Jamal Murray is not really playing well either. But when they were trading those back-to-back 40-point games, the ball was just in his hands. And I don't think it was a coincidence that you saw a really inspired Rudy Gobert. I don't think his defense on Jokic is talked about enough in that series. And because there was playing a lot of pick and roll between him and Gobert. Gobert was getting a lot of touches. And I think, you got to feed your big man. You feed your big man, he gets the touches, the more he's going to want to defend. So I've been kind of surprised by their defensive effort. They gave up a lot of points to Minnesota in a loss. They gave up a lot of points to relatively to Phoenix in a loss to a team like OKC, which is not really that talented. They gave up a lot of points to them. So defensively, I think if you're a Jazz fan, you have to be concerned. But this is still super early. Same with Bogdanovic. We'll talk about his struggles a little bit. He's down to 12 points a game, around 12 shots a game. And, when he was having, his, great seasons in Indiana or even last year for Utah, for you guys, he was getting a lot more touches and the ball was in his hands more. So we'll see how it works out. Still really early in the season. A positive note would be the way that Jordan Clarkson has shot it. That was one of the things that I was looking for, was his jump shot, newly found jump shot. Was that an aberration, or is that just who he is now? It looks like it's the latter. That is who he is. So I'm interested to see how that progresses going forward. I've been surprised that Royce O'Neal hasn't played as much. I don't know. I just think he should play a little bit more. He looks like he's the best defender for Utah. I had a gentleman leave me a comment about how far do I think the Jazz can go, and I think the Jazz could go to the Western Conference Finals. I think that they're that good, but it also depends on matchups defensively. There's some teams that just match up defensively better. And now that it looks like Harden actually might be leaving, that takes one of the teams that you guys probably would potentially struggle against. Houston has given them nightmares, but a Lakers team that you can run a high percentage of pick and roll. But there are some teams like the Clippers, which you guys saw the other night when that win versus them, that I think that they match up very well with Royce O'Neal, that could guard one of the players. Bogdanovic is an underrated defender. And then you have Rudy Gobert in the paint. That's not really a high pick and roll team. That's a team that shoots a lot of pull-up jumpers, wants to get a lot of points at the rim. And this is that's where, Rudy Gobert shines. So I do think it depends on matchups, but Royce O'Neal is a player that I would like to see get a little bit more burn here. And then also, like I said earlier, when I talked about the team, it seems like the bench feels just a tad bit short. It already seems like they're going to like a playoff rotation of 8 guys, with Ingles and Favors and Clarkson and Yang playing sparingly. So that might be something that Utah needs to address. This is going to be a very interesting season in regards to teams trying to stay away from the cap, going over the cap and playing luxury tax. Utah has that new owner, billionaire, and new owners generally want to spend. I don't think it's coincidence that Rudy Gobert signed his contract like this, and he's a great owner in the sense that he watches the games. He actually enjoys the Jazz. I read an article that he was thinking about buying the Timberwolves, and his wife had to remind him, like, fam, we're Jazz fans. Like, I'm not going to be cheering for the Timberwolves. So he actually loves the Jazz. So this is an interesting opportunity, I believe, for all smart market teams to take advantage of these owners wanting to offload salary and to pick up maybe a couple of distressed assets. And then there's also a couple of guys that are on the street who I think that are very interesting. A player like Dion Waiters, and maybe not so much for the Jazz because it seems like they have enough shooting and scoring, more scoring. He's more of a scorer than shooter. But I would like to see them add maybe another athletic wing to kind of switch it up a little bit. Once again, defense that I've seen has been a concern to me. And they have a lot of players. Bogdanovic is not a bad defender. Ingles is not a bad defender. But once again, Ingles, Bogdanovic, Mike Conley, Donovan Mitchell. These are a lot of guys that need the ball in their hands. And I think fit matters more. They need fit. They need guys that are just willing to stand there, catch and shoot, defend. Royce O'Neal, let me look. Let me see. What is he shooting from 3? So he's shooting about 35%, which isn't the worst thing in the world. That's his last 10 games. So he's shooting 40% this year. But so it's not the worst thing in the world just to have him. But, I think that they need more players of that ilk. They might be too heavy on the players. It might sound like a blasphemous thing, but, maybe trading a Joe Ingles for a player that fits that mold a little bit more. might be a way to go. Also, I think they need to stagger the minutes more between Donovan Mitchell and Mike Conley in particular. I don't think those two should be playing that many minutes because both of them need the ball in their hands. So I think they need to work on that a little bit more, staggering the minutes and trying to make sure that they can get some shots there. So just all in all, at the start of the season, I really generally think that Utah. I can't say they've underwhelmed. This is a really weird season, but I think continuity should be king. And this is a team that the majority of the players have come back. And even the new player that they've added, Favors, he was a player that's been on the team as well, and he's been as advertised. But I think that their defense should be better if Favors is going to be back. There's always a concern that teams run up to score or can score on those minutes that Gobert is off the floor. And Favors, he actually is a more interesting defender because he can come out a little bit on pick and rolls. That's Rudy's Achilles heel is coming out high on pick and rolls, and they generally play that same defense. He's someone who's a tad bit more athletic, so he can play up. So I don't see that. So just with the Utah, I don't think it's any causes of concern that I see. I do think that it's probably going to take some time, even though they have the continuity, the success that Jazz fans saw in the bubble that should have taken them to the second round of being up 3-1. This is a little bit of a different team when you add in Bogdanovic. And I know it, people just want to add talent, but I do think fit matters. So hopefully this is only just a temporary slump that Donovan Mitchell is in, and we'll see that form. They were one of the teams that were in bubble that long, so I don't think that they should have that fatigue. I think that the teams that left in the first round or didn't make the playoffs should be in like a great pocket for not being too tired, but having the continuity of just played some high intensity basketball. I think that that's what you're seeing in the Suns right now. And then, adding Chris Paul. But they're definitely a team that should be in that tier, that should be fighting for home court advantage. Them not having their fans is also a unique thing because the Jazz home court, I think, on balance, is probably one of the best in the league. If a lot of people talk about the Denver home court because of the altitude and things of that nature, but I do think the veracity of Jazz fans have had the incidents in the past we don't need to get into, but just the whole vibe of coming into Utah. And then also I think the vibe of going on the road. I think that certain road trips are harder than others regardless of who you're playing. Generally, when you go to play Utah, you're playing like that Utah, Denver, Phoenix type swing in those areas. And now that they're playing these schedules where, you play you're even playing home at homes or two games in the same arena, and then switching it other way, they might lose their home court advantage in that way. So that's also a thing to look out as well. Because Utah has always generally played very, very well at home. And who knows how long these restrictions are going to stay in place. So that's another thing for Utah to look at as well, because they definitely want to get home court advantage. There's going to be one of these teams that do not get home court advantage of the Lakers, Clippers, Phoenix, Denver, Utah, Portland, 6, and 2 of these teams, excuse me. And, you want to be playing the 8th seed that sneaks in that has to play a play-in game, or the 7th seed that sneaks in that has to play a play-in game. You don't want to be one of these teams that your first round matchup is versus a Portland, who I think is a tricky matchup for Utah because of Dame Lillard and, his pick and pop nature, drawing a Rudy Gobert out. So I do think that Utah, while it might take some time to figure it out, they do need to be focused on getting that 1 seed or getting that 2 seed as well. So that's my thoughts on Utah after the first week and a half. I'm really interested to see how the things go forward. I expect Donovan Mitchell to pick it up. I don't think it was just a bubble blip the way that he played. And I know he's a worker. He's someone that wants to be great, wants to be a great player. Everything I've heard about him, his workout regimens, I heard a story about him, just watching film with coaches to improve on himself being a passer, not a scorer, but a passer. You know, that just shows me that is just someone who wants to be a complete player, who wants to be an all-around great player. So I think he's going to snap out of it. But I do worry, and I do have some concerns for Bogdanovic and how this all message. And I think that they need to get it together sooner than later, because right now it seems like the season is middling and teams are losing games that they shouldn't. But these games matter, especially in the West, especially for home court advantage. So that's Utah. Uh, Dolo this time, so I did it for 15 minutes. If you have any comments, you disagree about anything I said, definitely leave me a comment. I will definitely respond to you. Hit subscribe. Tell your friends about it. I'm going to hit every NBA team. If your team doesn't get love, I'm going to give them some love. And look out for my nightly NBA nightly recaps. All right. 30 teams, 30 minutes. Get at me.